Force be with us.
Hey guys, this is Drax and I'm back with another how-to guide, and this time I'll be showing you how to dominate with the villain Iden Versio. So by now most of you should know who Iden Versio is. Main character of the campaign, leader of the Inferno Squad, and all-round traitor. Sorry, but it had to be said. Despite her being on the rebel side most of the story campaign, she teams up with the villains in multiplayer. Here she dons her red and black Special Forces armor, equipped with the shock droid ability, the post cannon, and the droid shield. Her weapon of choice, the TL-50 heavy repeater. So looking at her first ability, one of her best abilities I think. Once activated, the droid will seek out nearby targets and shock them. This will stun them in position, and any nearby enemies will also receive a shock as well, as it chains to them. In Heroes vs Villains or HVV mode, this ability is great for getting targets to stay still. Hitting heroes like Yoda can be a hard task as he jumps around, but once shocked this gives you a good window to unload the TL-50 directly into their head. It makes for easy eliminations and is a great team play skill locking down targets. In HVV and Galactic Assault, it can be used to slow an enemy down. If too many are coming in on you, a quick shock will halt the progression, giving you a window to get away. I find this ability very useful on heroes, but due to its ability to chain, rooms full of infantry can be subdued and dispatched quickly when combined with the TL-50's secondary fire. The second ability is the post cannon, otherwise known as the DL-20A long blaster. We saw this one on the last game, but this version takes a bit longer to charge and also weighs her down, slowing movement. Good for taking out targets at range, but I can't say that I'd advise using this one too much, as standing still is never a good idea in competitive games. I personally think it takes a bit too long to charge, and it's fairly inaccurate when compared against the NT-242, that being the specialist 500 kill weapon. I would much rather have a modified version of the NT-242 as it fires much faster. I'm not a big fan of the crosshair aim point on the post cannon either, so it's not one of those abilities I use too often right now. I'm actually hoping they will buff this ability for better use in the future. Best run I had with it was on Kashyyyk at the end stage, focusing on taking out targets who have just spawned. Still, I reckon I could have done better with the NT-242. Generally in HVV I don't use this one at all, as I think it leaves you a bit too open to attacks. I know some people do love this ability though, and I understand its uses on more open maps like Hoth. I just think it needs to be a bit quicker to charge, and you should be allowed to move a bit quicker while wielding it. And the final ability is the droid shield. Now as long as you have the droid on your back you can activate the droid shield. If you send it off to stun someone then request the shield, it will not work. The droid has to come back to you before the shield can activate. This ability is one I use very often both for offense and defense. If I'm moving onto the front lines in Galactic Assault, I get the shield up beforehand, then when I see a target I can position myself to take them out quickly. Iden is more of a hit and run villain in my eyes, and using the shield for this playstyle is very effective. So normally picking off targets one at a time is best for Iden, unless they are of course grouped together, at which time she can utilise that secondary fire mode again. The shield can also be used defensively of course, so whenever you start taking a bit too much damage, shield up and run away. It's probably her best ability as she can be taken down fairly quickly, so proper use of the shield will keep your kill streaks going. In HVV against heroes like Han and Lando, this one is very handy. Han for example does a large chunk of damage when he hits you with his blaster, so the shield does come in handy there and has saved me quite a few times. So let's talk about offensive capabilities now, and this really only comes in the form of our main weapon, which is a modified TL-50 heavy repeater. To tell the truth, this one feels like the TL-50 from Battlefront 1. Great accuracy, even over range, high fire rate, devastating against all targets, and of course that secondary fire mode which can be spammed consistently, dispatching singular and large groups of enemies in no time. As pointed out in a previous video, Iden's version is much better than the Heavy's version as it has a tighter spread, better cooling, and a secondary fire mode that hits harder and can be used more often. The secondary fire takes out all standard infantry in one blast, excluding the Heavy class which takes 2. Her range and better cooling with a standard fire means that she can put out consistently high damage on any enemy. With Iden, I usually get the top spot in HVV, as you can always deal damage with her no matter what the situation. When faced against Jedi who will block her blaster shots, firing off the secondary will bypass their defense, dealing a chunk of damage to anyone in range of the splash. In Galactic Assault, this makes her one of the best, as she can splash damage onto corners and into places where a large group of enemies might be gathering. Any choke points and Iden is my go-to villain. Seeing as every enemy in the inner of the splash takes the foe secondary damage, this means any size group of any class, excluding the heavy of course, will die in that one blast. Now you will get a lot of hate in chat when using this. Because of this secondary fire ability, I've already been called cancer. But the fire mode is there to be used, and it's a big part of what makes Iden a good villain. Without it, she wouldn't be so good to use, and I'd probably use a different villain. With a bit of skill, it can be used at great range as well, and since it charges faster than the post cannon, I do normally use the secondary on ranged targets. So let's talk about what star cards you should get to make her even better. My number one card is Alternative Methods. This reduces the delay between secondary fire uses. This means more spam and more kills. Like the OTL50, you can fire it off all the time. Getting this card tiered up is a must, because the alternate or secondary fire as I like to call it, does more work and damage than any of her other abilities. The second card is Droid Batteries, reducing the recharge time on both Stun Droid and Droid Shield. Both abilities you are going to be using often, so to have them recharge quicker is great. A Stun Droid recharging quicker mostly proves useful in HVV or against targets who are slippery opponents. Getting to shock more opponents will mean more easy kills as they are stunned in place, and with the offensive gameplay style I talked about earlier, having the shield recharge quicker means you can be a bit more aggressive. I usually get in, take someone out, and as the attention turns to me from his friendlies nearby, I shield up and run away. Let the shield recharge again and look for another target. This is an easy way to get kills and reduce the amount of damage you take. And the third card is Cool Blaster, reducing the heat build-up on the TL50, allowing you to fire the blaster for longer. When multiple targets present themselves or against heroes who have more health, this card really helps you to output the damage. Combined with a shock droid, taking out multiple opponents is a lot easier as you don't have to worry about overheating the weapon so much. So that's the cards I recommend, but here's just a few final tactics to help you dominate when playing as Iden. Number 1. Keep rolling. Iden I find does best at medium range, as you can land most of her TL50 shots from that distance. But that does leave you open for Jedis to close the gap, and when they do, make sure to use the roll button to gain some distance again. Timing is important, as rolling at the right time will dodge a hit from the lightsaber, and those do a lot of damage to Iden, so what I try to do is roll away a bit, get some distance, deploy the shock droid, and depending on health, either run away or go on the offensive. The second tip is to aim for the head. There is a headshot multiplier in this game, and that means headshots do more damage. So if you can hit the head consistently, that will be better than continually hitting the body. The main time to go for headshots is against infantry in Galactic Assault, and against heroes when they have been shocked or downed. The final tip is to cover the choke points. Iden really shines in situations where enemies are cramped up together in a large group. In this case, always use the secondary fire to make easy work of them.
Gate controls overridden. We can open the main structure, hunt down the rebels, then converge at the entrance.
So that's my guide to dominate the Battlefront as Iden Versio right there. Any questions or thoughts, please leave them in the comments. Hope you guys have a lot of success when using Iden. I'll be back with more gameplay, updates, guides and tips soon. So as always, thank you for watching and see you next time.